Hi everyone, it's Don from Don's Family Vacation, and today we're going to talk about 25 tips for taking an Alaskan cruise. I've been on 15 of them now myself, and I love it. It's probably my #1 destination to go anywhere. But before we do that, I just wanted to thank everybody. We got a lot of new subscribers lately, and I'm so excited. It's so thrilling. I thought this thing would go nowhere at one point. I was just doing it for fun and for clients, and people found the information useful. I'm very thankful for that. I get some great questions and great positive comments, and the one thing I really wanted to say and thank everybody is people were doing some of my older videos and they noticed I had this big full head of hair and now I don't, and they kind of put two and two together and know that yes, I do have cancer right now. In fact, I have three. I had colon, liver, and lung. Colon and liver are doing really well. They're gone, just fighting off the liver now, the lung now, and everything's going well. So thanks for all the positive comments, and I'm very thankful for all the well wishes and very grateful. So I just wanted to put that out there. You guys are great. You guys are the best, and I see nothing but positive on the comments all the time, and I'm so thankful. So thank you very much. And now, hey, what y'all came here for? 25 tips for an Alaskan cruise coming up, you guessed it, right after this. Number 1, pick the right cruise line. By far, Holland America and Princess Cruise Line have built a community out there. They are probably the #1 cruise lines out there. Princess a little bit ahead of Holland because of all the travel lodges. You can do land and sea cruise combinations and things like that. But make sure that the ships and the cruise line is right for you. You're not going to get the large ships like Oasis of the Seas and Radiance, those kind of ships, because they're not allowed to go through the inside passage and places like that. They're just too large, and environmental protection in Canada and Alaska won't let them through. So there has to be certain regulations, and that's why you see a lot of smaller ships going to Alaska. So make sure you do your investigation, find out which ones are right for you. Make sure that you're getting a ship with a covered pool instead of an outdoor pool. It makes a big difference on those colder days when you're traveling to Alaska. Number 2, if you're a single traveler, look at Norwegian. It's the bane of my existence that I like to travel alone quite a bit. I go on business a lot. And if I'm trying to get on a cruise, they want me to pay double, as most of you who've looked into cruises know if you're single. They don't care that you're going by yourself. They kind of consider the stateroom as 2 people, and there has to be 2 people there, which means if your cruise is $1,500, you're going to pay $3,000. Well, Norwegian Cruise Line has what's called a studio suite on some of their cruise ships, and they only cost the single person price. There's no 200% upgrade to it. The rooms are very small. 99% of them are inside cabins, but if you're looking to travel by yourself, they could be a great option and save you half the money. That includes gratuities and things like that, so everything is cut in half. So consider Norwegian if you're a single traveler. Number 3, book your cruise as early out as possible. I've seen Alaskan cruises, when they're first announced about 18 months in advance, be around $1,000 for let's say an ocean view stateroom. By the time you get within four months of going on that cruise, I've seen them double in price, because as the ship fills out, the rooms become less available, and so they raise the prices. It's kind of like tickets for a sporting event. If the sporting event starts selling out, well, the scalpers can charge more money for those tickets. So if at all possible, book as early as possible for an Alaskan cruise. Number 4, what you pack, what you wear. 75% of your clothes that you're packing should be fall and winter clothing. A lot of people say, but it's summer. I'm traveling in the summertime. Yeah, but it's still Alaska. you're still going to be surrounded by mountains covered in snow. You're heading to glaciers, and just the wind off the ice of the glaciers alone will send chills to your bone. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not freezing like minus 20-degree temperature, but yeah, just dress warm, dress in layers while you're on shore excursions and things like that. So if it does get hot, you can take it off. If it gets colder, you're already prepared for it. So it's much better to be warm and dry, and instead of freezing for 4 hours on an excursion and wondering why you left that sweater or light coat back on the ship. Bring good footwear, not just normal running shoes. You want something with traction, and you want something maybe thermal as well, especially if you're going up to the glaciers. I have a pair of work boots. I used to work in the construction field, and they're winterized, they're heavy grip, they're steel-toed, and I wear them everywhere I go that I know I'm going into the forest, or I'm going to be hiking, or I'm going to be climbing through water. They're just the perfect pair of boots for me because I'm so used to wearing them out there. But I see people heading off to the glacier, and the attendants are looking at them and they're saying, you know, you're wearing a 4-inch heel. We're going to a glacier, that's not going to work. So just be careful and pack some good footwear. You don't want to slip and hurt yourself on the trip. You want to make sure you're having a good time and you're warm doing it. If you're looking for the best deal on an Alaskan cruise, you want to try months like May and September. They're far cheaper than June, July, and August, as that's the prime traveling. So if you're on a budget and you really want to go to Alaska, try those times. There's going to be a few downfalls, a few pluses, but it is quite often about 50% cheaper to travel during those months. I get this question a lot. Will it rain? Short answer, yeah. You're in Alaska. It's gonna rain. The weather can change like that. It's plain and simple. So prepare yourself. Know it's gonna happen. Don't get discouraged when it happens. Things still go on. It can change some itineraries. It can change some shore excursions. For instance, if you're gonna fly to a glacier and a thunderstorm hits, they're not going to fly the helicopters out to the glacier. So keep that in mind. It's going to rain at some point, which is why, as I said earlier, maybe make sure that you're getting that covered area on the cruise ship where you can enjoy and lounge outside, but still have a view of the mountains as they're floating by. When you're on the shore excursions or you're visiting a port, you're going to see tons and tons of souvenir shops. 75% of all the towns make their living from the cruise ships and travelers visiting Alaska. So there's obviously going to be lots of things for sale and lots of food to eat and stuff like that. The one thing I would suggest is support the local economy, and you'll know them because they'll have a sign usually out front saying local family owned or locally owned, because a lot of the other shops are foreign interests and they're from China, there's some from Russia, they can be from almost anywhere that they've set up shops knowing the tourism is so good up there. And if you think you're buying something legitimate from Alaska, really look into it, because unless it says made in Alaska, chances are it's bought in Alaska and made in China. Alaska is arguably the best seafood you'll ever taste. Everything is super fresh. Almost every cruise line gets their fresh produce from the local towns whenever they dock at port. They don't bring it with them from the ports they're leaving from, like Vancouver or Seattle. They just bring enough to get to the next port, and then they're buying fresh stuff all the time. And sometimes they won't even prepare the meal on the cruise ships until they know what they can buy and what's the freshest. And sometimes it's going to be king crab, sometimes it's going to be fresh lobster, sometimes it's going to be great big huge fresh Arctic salmon. Absolutely amazing food, especially if you're a seafood lover. I recommend trying everything out there you can possibly get your hands on. I know this is expensive, but if you can at all afford it, get a balcony. When you've been to the Caribbean 6 or 7 times, the ocean is the ocean, and you might want to save some money and get an inside cabin. But trust me, especially if it's your first time going to Alaska, there's nothing better than sitting out at dusk, watching the sunset or sunrise over the mountains, all the steam off the ocean, the mountains in the background, perhaps some whales going by, and you're sitting out having coffee late at night, just relaxing on your balcony. You don't have to be up on deck with a whole bunch of people, especially if the ship captain yells, "Whales to the port," and you see half the ship will run to that side of the ship up top and look for the whales trying to get pictures. Well, if you have a balcony on that side, you just step outside your balcony and you're probably going to get a much better picture and find those whales so much easier, or any nature for that matter. So also a balcony, usually if you're getting a return trip, the ship will take the same passage back, so you're going to get both side views at the same time. One on the way there, one on the way back. You're not going to miss anything, where if you have to be up on deck, you just might miss something. So even if you have to save an extra year to go to Alaska the following year in a balcony, it's well worth it. Spend the money. This is the one cruise anywhere that I say a balcony is almost a must. Number 9, shore excursions and town visits are all a blast. It's a lot more laid back than people would think it is. It seems like, oh, it's going to be adventurous and everything. Yeah, but there's a relaxing atmosphere to it. One of the favorite things I like to do is, in some of the ports, you can rent a kayak. And you can actually take the kayak out to the foot of the glacier and you can get pretty darn close. Although I wouldn't get too close in case some of it breaks off. You're going to be in for a nasty surprise. But just even out in the waterways in front of the town and seeing the views from the water and the ship and everything can be just so much fun. And you never know, you might even have a pod of killer whales swim by, and that can be thrilling. I've had that happen twice to me while I was out there. They don't come after you, they're not interested in you at all. They just swim by, and it's amazing, especially if you love nature like I do. I go whale watching every chance I get whenever I'm on an ocean side or a seaport. So maybe think that as a kind of, instead of a shore excursion next time, think about just going into the dock and renting a kayak and going for a quick boat ride. While we're talking about the wildlife, don't go up to the bears to try and get a selfie. They're wild animals. They may look tame, they may look cute, but there are so many travelers in Alaska when they're on hikes and everything that break away from the group, walk up as close as 20 feet to the grizzly bear, just to turn around and go, click, hey, look at me. And you know what? That might be the last picture you ever take, is because you're going to have your smiling face and a grizzly bear in the background running towards you. So, yeah, remember, these are wild animals. Even the wild bighorn sheep that are up there can, if they run at you with their horns, they can do some serious damage. So be careful. Don't go up to animals. Stay with your group. If you want a close-up shot, make sure you have a long lens on your camera. And let's just be safe out there. And that way, nothing's going to happen to you and nothing's going to happen to the wildlife. They're not going to have to put a bear down because you decided you wanted a selfie. This should go without saying for any seasoned traveler, but for you new folks, put your cell phone on airplane mode, because a lot of people think, oh, I'm going from the United States in Seattle and I'm going to Alaska. They're both United States. Yes, it is. But you got to travel through Canada to get there, and that traveling through Canada can add up to a couple $100 on your cell phone. So keep it on airplane mode, and no surprise cell phone bills. If you tend to get seasickness, air sick, car sick, things like that, I suggest leaving from Vancouver instead of Seattle or Los Angeles for an Alaskan cruise, because they spend less time in the open water and more in protected water like the Inside Passage, where they have mountains on both sides. So an Alaskan cruise is one of the calmest cruises you're going to get once you're in the protected areas, and it's a very smooth ride even though you're on smaller ships. But the ocean can be quite rough, especially if you're leaving in May and September. So if you're leaving from Seattle, you've got all that distance from Seattle to Vancouver on the open ocean. And if you get seasick, that's where you're going to get it before you hit the inside passage area. So seasickness, book your trip from Vancouver if at all possible. A lot of people want to see the glaciers, and I completely understand that, and they'll book shore excursions to get closer to the glaciers. A little tip, unless you're taking like a helicopter tour out to the glacier and you're going to land on the glacier, the ships basically get just as close as the shore excursions do to the glaciers. So you might want to save your money there, or make sure that you're taking the air transportation out there. That is a thrill, to land on a solid block of ice and walk through the glaciers and see the holes and things like that. It seems like you're in another world. But as far as the shore part of the excursion, like hiking tours, the ships will get you there pretty much just as close. So save your money that way. As I stated earlier, June, July, and August are prime Alaskan cruise time, where May and September are not. The reason for that is May and September you're going to be colder. Also, it's going to be choppier and worse weather. You're more likely to run into storms at that time of year than other times. Also, July and August, if you're looking for nature, you're more likely to see nature on the shore, bald eagles, seals, all that kind of stuff, bears, and even pods of whales during the July and August than you will in May and September. So cheaper cruise, a little less nature, and colder, choppier weather. So it's your choice. Whatever you feel is better deal for you, just keep that in mind. Some cruise lines, especially ones like Princess Cruise Lines, offer enrichment seminars where when they're on their way to a port, they'll have a 1-hour seminar where an expert from that town and that area will come on and they'll talk about the town and the history and what you can see, and it gives you a little insight into how the town was built and what happened and why it's now a tourist area compared to a gold mining town. It'll also give you tips on where you should stay and perhaps eat while you're on shore. It'll also do nature, so they'll talk about killer whale pods, humpback whales, all that kind of stuff, things that you might see on the cruise. So they're free. Go ahead and take them in, and it can be a very enjoyable way to spend an hour while you're on a sea day. If you've got yourself a covered pool deck area on the ship, make sure you bring your bathing suit, because that means that it's a heated pool, you have heated hot tubs. There's going to be times when it's going to be around 15, 20 degrees at night, and it's going to be nice and cool, but it's going to be so relaxing to sit in the pool or the hot tub, especially on a sea day in the evening while you're listening to light music, a band playing or something like that. So don't forget to bring your bathing suit even though you're going to Alaska. One thing a lot of people forget to bring, binoculars. I know you're traveling fairly close to shore and things like that, but sometimes things are a little hard to spot, but binoculars are a godsend when you're looking for nature and you're looking to see bald eagle nests or things like that, or baby bears just coming out of hibernation with their mother. You might spot the mother, but you might not see the cubs. So, and also for whale watching, it's a lot easier if you can focus in on an area with binoculars than trying to see the open ocean like this, because you're just going to see a little bump sometimes and it's very hard to see. It just looks like a wave unless you know what you're looking for, like I do, because I love whale watching. I know seafood is big in Alaska, but there's all kinds of other foods out there to try. Local cuisine, deer, elk, and things like that, beaver tails, things that if you're not a Canadian or from Alaska that you might not have ever heard of and might sound, I don't know if I want to try elk. Give it a try. Break out of your comfort zone a little bit, because some of the food out there is so delicious and they have been cooking it for years and years and years. And there's family recipes that have been handed down time and time again, and some of those meals are just absolutely delicious. So don't just stick with cruise line food. Don't be afraid to try a local restaurant or a local like chip wagon type place that's serving something like an elk burger or something like that, because some of that food is absolutely delicious. Another thing people forget is during the summer, it's almost light out 24 hours a day. There's no nighttime. Remember in the Arctic that nights and days are 6 months long? Well, during the summer in Alaska, it's light out. So be prepared for that, especially if you have a balcony and you're a light sleeper and the sun might wake you up. You're going to want to make sure that you have the curtains closed before you go to bed at night. You'll probably have them closed anyway because there's no night and you're going to see the daylight. So yeah, just be prepared for it. A lot of people aren't. If you're taking my advice and you picked your cruise, you picked your ship, and you're booking early, like 18 months out for that Alaskan cruise, and you decided to get a balcony, get yourself an aft balcony. And I'll tell you why. Not only do you get to see the ports when you're leaving and things like that, or when the ship's turning around, you almost get a 360 view of the glaciers and things like that, but also the aft cabins on most ships tend to be between 25 and 50% bigger and larger with more room than the average balcony on the ship's midships. So keep that in mind. If you can, try and grab yourself a regular balcony room, but on the aft of the ship. You wake up in the morning, you turn on the local TV on in your cruise cabin, and it says, oh, it's going to be fair and sunny all day long, and it's going to be 24 degrees Celsius, and which is about 80 degrees Fahrenheit for us Americans, or you Americans, sorry, I'm Canadian. Yeah, it sounds like a great day. Well, in Alaska, yeah, the weather can change just like that. It's in an hour, it's gone from bright and sunny to cloudy and rainy in an instant. And so be prepared for that. Make sure, like I said, you're dressing appropriately. Dress in layers with a small backpack, that if it's warm, you can take it off. If it's cold, you can put it back on again. So keep that in mind. Just because the weather says it's going to be nice, in 4 hours from there, when you're on that shore excursion, it can be dreadfully miserable and cold in an instant. And my last tip kind of goes with my last one. I kind of say this on all my tip videos because I see people get stressed so often when things change or something goes wrong, a little thing goes wrong, and they just get so stressed about it because they're worried it's going to ruin their vacation. So roll with the punches. Alaska, probably more than almost any other destination or cruise, other than maybe a world cruise, because there's so many ports and so many times the weather's going to affect it. But Alaskan weather can really affect what's happening. It can cancel shore excursions. It can cancel, your time on deck, obviously, if it's pouring rain all the time and you feel drenched and things like that if you're not dressed properly. So those scenic sunny days on the ocean are not necessarily going to happen sometimes on Alaskan cruise. It just depends on your luck. And if you get stressed over it and worried over it, you're not going to have a very good time. So just learn to roll with those punches. It's going to be okay. Oh, we couldn't do that glacier flight out today. Maybe I can do it at the next port instead. So keep that in mind. And especially when you're doing your shore excursions, if you have anything that involves a helicopter or a plane, try and do it from the first port you stop at as opposed to your last stop, because then you'll have other ports that you can possibly reschedule if yours gets canceled. Well, there you have it, my 25 tips for an Alaskan cruise. Some of these can be put on any cruise, like booking early and things like that. Norwegian having studio cabins for single travelers, which is a big boost if you're a single person wanting to travel. You don't have to find somebody to go with you. So I hope you found these interesting. If you did, please hit the like button. And if you want to see more cruise tip videos or tip videos from all kinds of destinations like Disney, Universal, Japan, Hawaii, please hit the subscribe button and welcome to the channel. I hope you really liked this video, and if you did, please leave comments, ask me questions, anything at all. I get back to every single person who leaves me a message, usually within 24 hours, And those of you who have left me questions know I get right back as soon as possible. I usually know the answer, and if I don't, I will find it for you, guaranteed. So until next time, have yourself a great vacation.